Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Lowell City Council to order. Please join me in the council prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me now in honoring America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Dakota.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for State Representative Edward LaLasher, who passed away this past week. I think Ed is no stranger really to anybody in Lowell and lived a long, distinguished public career. He's survived by his wife, Ann, also was the husband of the late Eileen LaLasher, and also his children, Joanne, Mary Jane, Bill, Christine, Paul, and Jim. And he was also the father of his son, Ed, who is predeceased him. I know others may speak and have much to say about Ed's work on behalf of the city and his capacity as a state rep. We're all familiar with his tireless work, the efforts to bring LaLasher Park to Lowell, the Songus Arena, and so many other state projects. But before he served as a state rep, Ed had a really distinguished life. He ran a market, but really had dedicated, over 20 years to his parish, the Sacred Heart Parish, and ran with Joe McNamara, his legislative aide, who just died a few weeks ago, the men's club at Sacred Heart, which was really the primary fundraising mechanism for many, many years for the Sacred Heart School. It's not something you do that maybe I'll get involved with this, work it for 25 years, so then I can run for state rep someday. Ed was clearly somebody interested in serving others. He never said no to anybody, would always do what he could to help people, whether that was in the market, at Stowe Pines, whether it was at Sacred Heart, or whether it was in his job as a state representative. He was a great public servant to the city of Lowell and will be sorely missed.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. Very well put. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. A lot has been said about Ed LaLasher since his passing, and rightfully so. Edward LaLasher was sworn into office 36 years ago, representing the citizens of the 17th Middlesex District. He served the city and the people with immense class and compassion. But long before Ed was sworn into office, Ed LaLasher was reaching out to thousands of people, helping them with their grocery orders and people in need. And as Councilor Martin indicated, for at least 24 years, not only did he serve the elderly with a Thanksgiving dinner, but he also served them with a Christmas dinner. Ed LaLasher wrote the book on public service, and we could all learn a lesson from his public service over the past 24 years. Ed LaLasher never looked for a spotlight. He never looked for any fanfare. He just went along his business, helping people. And as Father Hanley indicated this morning at his funeral, Ed LaLasher lived his life to help others. How much was Ed LaLasher respected in the State House? The Speaker of the House was present. 3 former Speakers of the House were present. The Lowell delegation and many, many representatives and senators from the state of Massachusetts. Ed led a full life, and we should emulate what he has done for people over the past 85 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Chair recognizes Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is only fitting that I say some words about a great gentleman, and Eddie was a people's person, dedicated to constituent service, always willing to help anyone in need. A guy that did not want the spotlight shine on him, but shone the spotlight on people's needs and attended to them. The last 2 days exemplified the love that was shown to this gentleman, and he will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please all, let's rise now.
Excuse
Oh,
me,
I'm
I have a
sorry.
moment of silence as well.
Oh, okay.
I have a moment of silence in darkened chamber for my dear friend Ralph Lawson, a very active member of the Senior Center. He was an excellent baker, and he made the best black moons. He was an avid dancer at all the senior dance events. He was also a member of the Lowell Lodge of Elks for 35 years. Ralph leaves 3 sons, 8 grandchildren, 22 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren, as well as the love of his life for 20 years, Irene Cadron. We offer our sympathy to the family, and he will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Let's all now rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers. Thank you. May they rest in peace. First order of business this evening, it gives me great pleasure to recognize the Lowell Community Health Center. And we have with us Dorcas Grigg-Sato here this evening, along with some other staff and board members from the Lowell Community Health Center. And I do have a proclamation. If my colleagues permit me now, I'd like to present the proclamation. City of Lowell, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, by His Honor James L. Molinazzo, Mayor, a proclamation. Whereas from August 8th to August 14th, our nation will celebrate the 2010 National Health Center Week. This year's theme is Celebrating America's Health Centers, Turning the Vision into Reality. This theme highlights the 45-year record of health centers in providing affordable, high-quality, cost-effective health care to all people, regardless of their ability to pay for services. And whereas for the past 40 years, Lowell Community Health Center has offered quality, culturally competent health care for all Lowell residents. As a result, 1 in every 3 Lowell residents, or 35,000 patients, now choose the health center as their family doctor. And whereas, yet still, many in our community cannot access the health care services they need because the health center has reached capacity and its facilities are bursting at the seams. Therefore, we applaud Lowell Community Health Center for turning its vision into reality by building a new and expanded community health center at 161 Jackson Street. We look forward to the long-awaited groundbreaking early this fall and to celebrating the opening of the new facility by the end of next year. Now, therefore, I, James L. Molinazzo, Mayor of the City of Lowell, along with my colleagues in government, do hereby proclaim the week of August 8th through the 14th as National Health Center Week and urge all citizens to recognize the important contributions of the Lowell Community Health Center given this 10th day of August 2010 by James L. Molinazzo, the Mayor of the City of Lowell. It's a pleasure for me to present this to Dorcas.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Mayor Molinazzo and the council for this recognition. And I want to take advantage of National Community Health Center Week to bring you an update on our activities. But first, I'd like to recognize our board chair, Sue Beaton, who is here tonight, and board members Bruce Robinson and Mariatu Ali Dumbuya are also here, as well as some of our staff. As the family doctor for 1 in every 3 Lowell residents now, we literally and figuratively feel the pulse of Lowell every day. In addition to providing regular checkups, helping patients deal with acute and chronic illnesses, delivering babies, giving immunizations, and healing wounds, we are on the front lines when Lowell is threatened by an epidemic like childhood obesity, the threat of teen violence, or the possibility of a pandemic like last year's H1N1 flu. And as you know, we're planning significant growth over the next few years. I'm pleased to report that our planned expansion is moving full steam ahead. Thanks to the federal stimulus grant of $9.35 million that we received last December, we've completed architectural plans that will transform 100,000 square feet on 6 floors of the former Hamilton manufacturing facility on Jackson Street. It will also help to transform the jam area of Lowell. As was mentioned, we anticipate a groundbreaking this fall and expect to complete this long-awaited renovation by the end of next year, 2011. And this is a rendering of the building. This is where our Meta Health Center is right now. Sonette Poe is the director of the Meta Health Center, and this is the entrance to the 6 floors of the new facility that will be entering the end of next year. When we do move into our facility at 161 Jackson Street and are at full capacity, we will serve over 45,000 patients each year, a 30% increase in volume. The patients we serve typically use state-funded health plans that many other local providers will not accept. They are the working poor and moderate income people, the senior citizens struggling to pay for the many medications that they now need to take. They are young mothers who want access to prenatal care to help their babies get a healthy start in life. And they are new refugees who sadly have left lives of suffering to start a new life here in Lowell. Our patients are strong, hardworking, and resilient. Yet for a variety of reasons, they're often denied access to quality health care. When we open our new health center next year, we will finally have enough space to ensure that more of our neighbors get the care that they need. Of course, we still need to raise some more funds in order to make this dream a reality. So we'll be kicking off an ambitious but necessary capital campaign in the coming weeks. We urge all Lowell residents to think about contributing to this exciting investment in Lowell's future. And we thank the council for your ongoing vote of support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas, very much. Thank you. On behalf of my colleagues, I want to thank the Lowell Community Health Center, the staff, the board of directors for all you do in our community. Thank you so much. And best of luck with the project. Next order of business would be to accept the minutes of the July 27th meeting. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Under unfinished business, we have 2 items this evening. The first would be the demolition orders for 51 Payne Street and 11 South Whipple Street. If you recall, this was before us back in July, and we voted to stay service of the demolition order for a period of 30 days. It certainly has been 30 days, so I guess I would look to City Manager Lynch if there's an update on both Payne Street and on South Whipple Street.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, we have not seen any real progress at either one of these sites. The owner of Payne Street has indicated as recently as today that they're still trying to move forward. But again, the Inspectional Services has not seen any plans to move forward here. So at this point, I would ask that the council move forward with their order, and that if something should change between now and the 24th of the month, we'll certainly alert the council, and that would allow us then to put a halt to anything taking place there. But these properties are, as you saw, are problematic for their neighborhoods, problematic for the city, and we think it's in the city's best interest to move forward with the demolition orders.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Motion by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Mercier, that we move forward with a demolition order for 51 Payne Street and 11 South Whipple Street. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next item under unfinished business, vote accepting Chapter 26 of the Acts of 2010, which pertains to the collection of unpaid municipal fines. This was actually had a public hearing back at the end of July and referred to the city clerk's office So again, it's back before us. Any further discussion?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. Roll call.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Continuing on with the city manager's portion of the agenda. The first item, communication from city manager, responses to council motions and requests. Do we have any comments? Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a comment. I was talking to the manager earlier before the meeting, and the contract is doing the repaving in the Highlands. I don't care if it's Stevens Street or Parker Street, or whatever street they've been on. They have done an excellent, excellent job, and very happy with the work, and so aren't the residents in that neighborhood. They're very compelling and helpful with the residents. I just want to bring that forward because we always hear someone's not doing a good job. So I think it's time that we recognize this company.
Thank you. Anybody else on the responses to motions? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the I'm sorry. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just today, we got a response to a motion made by Councilor Elliott about the driveway curb cuts and looking into what could be done to change those regulations. And I thought I just might suggest, remembering the conversation that took place now over a month ago, that we might look at perhaps an exchange of assurances that basically whatever surface is put down, that it's more pervious than the typical asphalt, so that in conjunction with the motion I had made several meetings ago about low impact development, that in exchange for a wider curb cut, that we could possibly allow a driveway to go forward if it had met certain standards, like made out of pavers or more permeable surfaces. So just as a recommendation maybe to look at for future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Any other comments on all those in favor of accepting the communications placed on file signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Thank you. Next item, out-of-state travel, and I believe we have 8 requests this evening.
Take them all together.
Motion by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Do we take them all together? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
To vote. We do have 8, as I mentioned. Anybody have any comments, questions on the 8? Move approval by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Dakota. Roll call.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next item, we have some resignations. We have 2 resignations from the Historic Board and 1 from the Conservation Commission. We have Taya Dixon-Mullane resigning from the Historic Board. We have Michael Talty resigning from the Historic Board. And we have Kyle Davis resigning from the Conservation Commission. So I would ask that we accept the communications and place on file by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. Any comments, questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Thank you. Vote in City Council authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal of Robert D. Muldoon in the amount of $52,000 to purchase property located at 78 Perry Street, Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. Whereas the City of Lowell owns the property at 78 Perry Street, Lowell, having acquired said property by tax title foreclosure, case 96 TL 112367 on May 4, 2009, recorded in Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds in Book 22972, page 16. And whereas the City Council of the City of Lowell voted on June 8, 2010 to declare the property located at 78 Perry Street surplus and offer the same for sale under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, with a minimum proposal price of $45,750. And whereas the City of Lowell issued its request for proposal for the sale of 78 Perry Street with certain conditions contained therein, and whereas Robert D. Muldoon did submit a proposal to the City of Lowell containing a minimum proposed price of $52,000, and whereas the city manager has recommended to the City Council that the city accept the proposal, enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Robert D. Muldoon, now therefore be it voted that the city manager and the city treasurer be and they are hereby authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to sell and convey to Robert D. Muldoon or nominee as approved by the city manager for the sum of $52,000 on such terms and conditions as the city manager deems in the best interest of the city, the property located at 78 Perry Street, Lowell, owned by the City of Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property, including but not limited to purchase and sale agreement, deed, execution and delivery, release of any demolition lien, and any other related documents pertaining to the sale and transfer of said property consistent with this vote. Be it further voted that said deed shall contain the following conditions, which will become part of the deed of conveyance and will survive the passing of papers and be an obligation of the grantee to fulfill. 1, the grantee shall comply with all the conditions set forth in the grantor's request for proposals and any additional commitments set forth in the grantee's response to the request for proposal, including but not limited to: A, the city will convey the property as is and will not make any improvements or changes to the property as a condition of sale. B, the grantee must purchase the property by August 30th, 2010. C, the grantee shall complete redevelopment of the premises within 12 months of taking ownership of the property. Be it further voted that upon conveyance, the vote, deed, and any other related plans and all documents necessary for the transfer of the property shall be duly recorded at the Registry of Deeds at the expense of the grantee. Grantee shall also pay the stamp tax if applicable. Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal of Robert D. Muldoon in the amount of $52,000 to purchase property located at 78 Perry Street, Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. What's the wish of the council? Move approval by Council Caulfield, second by Council Broderick. Any discussion? Roll call.
Council
Oh, I'm
Murphy.
sorry, Council Martin.
Just briefly, I went by this property, and it's really in less than desirable condition. I think, this is a very good result for the neighborhood. We have somebody who's had a business there for a long time, committed to that street and that neighborhood, and so I think this is good work by the law department, completing the tax foreclosure, DPD, getting this sold and back on the tax rolls. So, good work.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next item, in City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement with University of Massachusetts Lowell to encroach upon city property for 2 proposed University of Massachusetts Lowell signs to be located on City of Lowell property. Be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the city manager is hereby authorized to enter into a license agreement with UML Office of Facilities located at 1 University Avenue, Cumnacall, Lowell, to encroach upon the City of Lowell property to erect 2 signs to help orient visitors traveling to and between the campuses. The proposed signs will be situated on the northwesterly sideline of Pawtucket Street and the other situated at the northeasterly sideline of Father Morissette Boulevard, to the extent of, and more particularly shown in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part of this license agreement. Said license shall be predicated upon adequate insurance coverage, which coverage shall be kept in force so long as said encroachment continues under this license, and that in the event of a sale or transfer of said property, that said license shall be assignable or transferable to any successor of the license herein, subject to the provisions of said lease agreement. In the event that said insurance coverage shall be canceled or lapses without being renewed or replaced, then said license hereunder shall be forthwith terminated, and licensee shall have to cease and desist from said encroachment. Said license shall be in accordance with the form or substantially the form attached hereto. Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement with the University of Massachusetts Lowell to encroach upon city property for 2 proposed University of Massachusetts Lowell signs to be located on City of Lowell property. Move approval.
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? Councilor Mendonça.
I don't have a problem with the university having their waypoints and having signage, but I was surprised at how big the sign on Morissette Boulevard is going to be. It's 3 foot square and 18 feet high. And I didn't understand why along Father Morissette Boulevard you would need such a tall sign. And so that's my objection. Others can vote as they wish. If we could divide the question, I'd be perfectly willing to support the Pawtucket Street sign. That's consistent with their other signage that they have at other points in their campus. I just object to such a large sign I don't understand the purpose because it doesn't need that much clearance. There's nothing in the way. So I just would want to explain why I would vote no.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Councilor Mercia?
It is my understanding when our chancellor does something, he does it big. And so I know coming into the city, of course with my age, I know these are younger people, but I think that I want to see where I'm going. And I know that they're large, but I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you. Any further comments? Roll call.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
No.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazzo.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 nay.
It's public hearing time. We have 2 public hearings before us this evening. The first is conduit location for Phoenix Communication, conduit in Appleton and Middle Streets. The chair would open the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor. State your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Chris McGay. I live in Bedford, New Hampshire, and I'm representing the company that will own the conduit if placed. I'm just here to provide any additional information. I distributed some photos earlier with one of the counselors. The engineered prints for these have already been submitted, and if we're granted the grant location, then we'll follow DPW engineering and restoration processes for lateral extensions to provide competitive bandwidth for the university system.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Thank you.
See him run from the electric company.
Okay.
That's the bridge project.
Okay, next public hearing, National Grid to place 2 poles, First Street Boulevard. This clerk informed me is associated with the Hunts Falls Bridge project. The chair would open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Public hearing is closed. I know there's not a representative here from National Grid, but do we want to still refer this to the wire inspector or table it? Council Martin?
Recess it. Recess.
Recess.
Well, is it going to hold up the project? I mean, can't we refer it to the wire inspector? Does someone really need to be here?
Again, I would defer to the city manager. I would say probably not. Again, you don't want...
It's really, I'm not aware of what the project is at this location. It could be, I'm not sure if time is absolutely of the essence. We could certainly refer it to the wiring inspector, leave it at his discretion. On the other hand, I will tell you that we've had issues with National Grid in the past that may be helpful to us to hold that for
Okay.
2 weeks.
I'll withdraw my request and I'll accede to the...
I
Chair recognizes
personally...
Councilor Mercia.
I personally thought they weren't going to be here tonight because they thought I was going to probably chastise them for not removing that pole because of my motion 2 weeks ago. but I actually was going to praise them and thank you, Mr. Manager, because the people on Burn Street are very happy that that pole has come down. So I actually wasn't going to, chastise the messenger. I was going to actually praise the person, and he's not here, so he doesn't have to be afraid. I'm not going to yell at him.
Mr. Manager?
Well, if the council would like, we can move this along, or we can put it off till the 24th and give you an opportunity to praise the representative at that time.
And at the same time, if I could segue without being gavelled, a very important, I'm not making a motion, so we're not going to do that.
It's related to the
It's
issue.
related to the issue regarding polls, and remember when this council voted, Mr. Manager, to take over the ownership of the polls, and we were...
The lights.
The lights. Have we done that yet or not?
No,
we have not.
No.
So having said that, could I just give you this piece of paper which talks about one of the lights that's out? And you know that in Pawtucketville there was some crime with breaking into cars, and they know that it was inevitable that there's really not much you can do about that. But it was very dark because this particular light pole has a light out. So segueing it into that and not making any motion, I just like to give you this piece
Refer
of
that
paper.
to the man. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Council Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not so much being in favor of National Grid, but how is this going to affect the user, the business person or the consumer? I mean, are we going to hold them up?
Again, I certainly think the council can approve this, and we'll just
Yeah.
refer to
Refer to the wire
inspector.
inspector,
Right.
and then we'll get a report back.
Right. It's not fair to punish the people who are going to get the service.
So, moved by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Caulfield, that we refer this to the wire inspector. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Councilor Martin?
On the prior motion, I know the speaker's still here. Could I ask a question? I know it's been approved, but
Sure.
come back
Chair
to
would- Chair would
the podium.
recognize.
Mike, this is your drawing?
Yes, it is.
So my question is, do you ever put these facilities underground, or what's the, I know there's an existing pole here, so maybe that's why this one's not underground.
The proposal is for a 2-inch conduit between the underground structure and going onto a riser onto the pole so we can develop a cable.
That's already existing?
There's an electrical riser there, and we need to provide a communications riser at that location.
Okay, so,
Separate services, you can't commingle services within the conduit system.
okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Getting back to the agenda, the next item under City Manager, in City Council resolution supporting and establishing a sister city relationship with Wanaba Ganya. Whereas the City of Lowell is cognizant of the plight of the people in the City of Wanaba Ganya, and whereas the City of Lowell is cognizant of Wanaba Ganya's desire to provide and manage basic social and physical infrastructure services to the residents of Wanaba. These services include basic education, housing, health, water and sewage, refuse and garbage collection, planning and development control, urban public transit, and fire services, among others. And whereas Wanaba wishes to request a sister city relationship with the City of Lowell, and wherefore the City of Lowell wishes to establish and officially recognize historical, cultural, and humanitarian link with Wanaba Ganya in the form of a sister city relationship, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that we, the members of the City Council, be on record as supporting and establishing a sister city relationship with Wanaba Ganya. Be it further voted that the City Council be on record as supporting that the city's membership in Sister Cities International, an organization committed to establishing and maintaining mutually beneficial relationship among sister cities throughout the world. This resolution adopted by the City Council of the City of Lowell on the 10th day of August 2010, second reading by title, resolution supporting and establishing a sister city relationship with Wanaba Ganya. Motion to approve by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Any discussion?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield, Councilor Dakota,
Yes.
Councilor Elliott,
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is executive session. If I could ask one of my colleagues to bring forward a motion that we move this executive session, the 3 items to the end of the agenda.
Yes.
Councilman Mendonça, second
So
by
moved.
Councilor Mercia, that we move the executive session items to the end of the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Thank you. Under reports, subcommittee reports, Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee convened a meeting last evening at 5 p.m. It was the second meeting that we conducted, and in attendance was Manager Lynch, Lowell Fire Chief Pitta, Dracut Fire Chief Gaudette, Mayor Jim Milanazzo, Councilor Joseph Mendonça, and Dan Lahif from the Water Department. And the meeting lasted approximately an hour and a half. It was a good discussion, and everyone had a chance to offer their views on this proposed water tank. Jim Ravad from Woodward and Curran was there, and he presented a documentation as to what we could do or should do. There were 3 options. Option 1 was do nothing, leave it as it is, and the city would lose $400,000 in engineering and design work. Also, you'd lose the stimulus money of $600,000. Option 2 was to construct a tank 47 feet high, not 123 feet high. The cost of that would be $3.7 million. The city would have to rehabilitate 2 pumping stations, build 2 new pumping stations, and add new water mains. That would cost the city millions of dollars more. Option 3 is to adopt the 123-foot tank. It's a 1 million-gallon tank. The cost is $2.5 million. And the subcommittee, Council Kevin Broderick and Council Rita Mercia, unanimously supported the proposed 123-foot, 1 million-gallon tank. And of all the testimony we had last evening from the residents, the most compelling testimony was from Lowell Fire Chief Pitta and Dracut Fire Chief Gaudette. And Mr. Ravad indicated, engineering-wise, you could put a tank up there 50 feet in height and 100 feet in circumference or diameter. And the pressure would be 50% less than it is now. It would not increase the head pressure. It would not help the fire department in case there was a serious fire. And the subcommittee agreed unanimously that we have to adopt the tank as proposed. Mr. Ravad is here from Woodward and Curran. If anyone has any questions for him, he certainly would answer them. But to go any other route, Mr. Mayor, would be a mistake. We voted for this tank in 2007. We also have the same size tank in height in the Highlands on Wedge Street, and that's serving the people very well. My colleagues on the subcommittee, if they'd like to offer their views on last night's meeting, I would welcome that. But this was the second meeting that the subcommittee convened, and it was the third meeting that I attended on this water tank. The only thing I'd have to say is the council and the city should have reached out a long time ago and brought information to the residents, what this tank was going to be, how big it was, so forth and so on. And I do want to say that after the meeting, those people who were in opposition were very gracious and classy, because I spoke to them and they said, we understand there's not much you can do about the issue. There was one gentleman from Dracut who indicated that we should adopt the lower tank in height, And I said, but you're not going to pay for that, sir. The city of Lowell is going to pick up that $2 million in extra cost. So I would welcome my colleagues to offer their views on the meeting. It was an excellent meeting. Everyone had a chance to speak. And Mr. Varad is here from the Woodward and Curran if you'd like to ask him questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield, for that report. Councilor Mercia?
Yes, Councilor Caulfield did cover all bases, but I just want to thank my colleagues for entertaining my motion and to clarifying some unknowns that we wanted to discuss, that they were left in the dark, so to speak, and this is not what this city's all about. We should notify people and make them aware of things. I know that Anne Marie Page diligently held meetings in her neighborhood group with the neighbors, but some of the people that abut the immediate property were not aware of it, were never notified, probably didn't see the meetings in the paper, and it was good that we all was on the right page here all together. But I felt that we held this subcommittee 2 weeks ago because they felt that they wanted a compromise. I don't know that if that could have been reached. That's why we entertained that motion to see if there could be. More information is better than not enough, and I think that after last night's meeting, it reinforced the fact of the issue that I had, which was I personally need to weigh everything till I make a final decision. I thought there were some answers that needed to be answered, questions that needed to be answered. I needed to weigh the alternative against what was before us. I needed to look at the cost factor of an additional pump, the cost to redesign, the $600,000 in federal stimulus money that we could have lost or jeopardized. There was a lot to consider, and I needed to extinguish all avenues before I made a level decision here. I think that we did that. I'm not an expert at this, but I did agree with the neighbors that we needed more information. And as Councilor Caulfield did say, the two superintendents of the fire department did a tremendous job, and they even brought a display here showing it, and I was very impressed with that. And ultimately, it's about public safety. It's about pressure. There is that need. Nobody's against it, but I thought that maybe we could have reached a compromise. With all the information we had before us, we just couldn't do that. So I feel that we made the right decision, and I want to thank everyone for entertaining that. And I think also with the motion, as we move forward and get this project on the ground and up and running, that we should notify the abutters as to what steps are taken now. We don't want to just put something in the middle of their backyard and not let them know about it. So if we could just give them more information as we go along and let them feel a part of it. It's their neighborhood. It isn't in my backyard. So that's why I felt compelled to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was a good motion. I think we had two good subcommittee meetings that were very informative and allowed participation from the neighbors that did not get notice. But I think we should recognize that Mr. Laif did make great efforts on the city's behalf to notify neighbors. Can't reach everybody. Not everybody reads the newspaper. And some people, you know, the flyers blow away or whatever, so weren't able to reach everybody, but they did make an effort. I think it's important to at least acknowledge that. And I think it was brought forward with good intentions. We had good meetings, and it was very informative. And I think in the end, the subcommittee made the right decision and really the responsible decision for the whole city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Broderick. Councilman Donza?
Yes, I'm not a member of the subcommittee, but I did try to gather, you know, what was the purpose of this project. And clearly what I heard was that the purpose of this project was to provide enough pressure to provide service to the high areas of the city without a mechanical means. And that's pretty much what prohibited the compromise plan of having a larger tank, because we already have a large tank on Richard Street with pumping mechanical pumps to provide the pressure. But the purpose of this project is to provide pressure without the pumps to the high-rise areas. So I believe that the subcommittee's recommendation is the correct one, and I can't see any other option for us to provide that gravity-fed pressure in any other way.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Caulfield?
Mr. Mayor, I neglected to bring forward what was brought to the subcommittee and the people at the meeting. The process we have now, the water is pumped up to Christian Hill continuously. And should that pump fail, there's no water. If there's no water, the fire department would have a hard time extinguishing a flame of a fire. With the storage tank, it gives the fire department and the city and the residents 1 million gallons of reserve. And once the tank is 1/4 empty or half full or whatever, the pump kicks in and replenishes that water. That's the real issue here, to make sure that there's a resource of water for that neighborhood. If you look in the suburbia, whether it's Chelmsford, Methuen, Boston, or whatever, there's water storage tanks. And we're not the only one that has them. So they have a need, and the need on 10th Street is to have that reserve 1 million gallons of water.
Thank you. Anyone else? Accept the report of the subcommittee's report of progress, signify by saying aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Councilor Mendonça.
Yes, the City Council's Education and Collegiate Partnership Subcommittee met at 5 p.m. this evening. We started actually about 20 after. Present were all the members of the subcommittee, namely myself, Councilor Caulfield, Councilor Murphy, and Councilor Dakota. Also present were Mayor Milanazzo and Councilor Mercier. And from the administration, we had the city manager, the assistant city manager, Adam Bakey, and assistant to the city manager, Henry Marchand. From the university, I'd like to thank Paul Marion, who is responsible for community outreach at the university, for helping me arrange the participants. We had a panel of participants, including the provost, Ahmed Abdallah, and a person representing career services, Patricia Yates, the dean of engineering, Jonathan Ting, Dean Don Pearson from the College of Education, and we also had Dean Coughlin from the psychology department. And we started by having the manager give a background as to the relationship they've had with the university in the past, and having some interns and co-ops. And then we heard from each of the members of the panel, and it was clear that they were moving in somewhat the same direction, and that they're staffing up a career services office where they're going to be able to post positions that people in the community or the city may have, that the students can then look up for opportunities they would have for co-ops and internships. We also heard some of the service projects they had done in the past. They've had extensive partnerships in education through the College of Education, and they've done service projects at the Bartlett School. They also listed virtually a who's who in the nonprofit sector of Lowell of organizations that they've done projects with. And it was agreed that we would continue the dialogue moving forward, and that we'll be scheduling a meeting in the future to continue our conversation to see how we can best utilize each other's services. And so we'll be doing that at some point in the future, and I give that as a report of progress.
Thank you, Councilor Mendonça. Anyone else like to be heard on the subcommittee report? All those in favor of accepting the report as a report of progress signify by saying aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Any other subcommittee reports? Hearing none, the next item, wire inspector, National Grid, one pole, Lundberg Street and Greener, by Ann Greener excavation, 133 Clark Road, conduit. Accept reports and adopt accompanying orders by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Under petitions, first one, Lowell General Hospital, 295 Bottom Avenue, requests increase of 20,000 gallons of diesel fuel to 50,000 gallons in total. Refer to public hearing for August 24th by Councilor Mendonça, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor referring to public hearing signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Kimberly Lillidow, 254 Concord Street, requests handicap parking sign. Refer to the traffic engineer by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item, Patrick O'Connor, 38 O Street, address City Council regarding excise tax. Chair recognizes Patrick O'Connor. And I'll remind Mr. O'Connor of the 5-minute rule we have here in the chambers. Nice to see you, Mr. O'Connor.
It's nice to see you too, Jim. I'm going to leave that one alone. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. It's always a pleasure. I stand before you tonight to ask you to look at automobile excise tax and to ask you as a council to possibly, if it's within the purview of this council, to create a payment plan for quarterly payments of excise taxes. In lieu of the fact that automobiles now cost $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 and more, and excise taxes are $200, $500, $800 and more, and have to be paid within 30 days or hit with a warrant charge. I think that's kind of hard on families and stuff that are really struggling in this day and age and trying to meet make their ends meet in this city. And the fact that our property tax, we can do them in quarterly payments, our trash fees, our water fees, our sewer fees are quarterly payments. I see no reason why we can't break this down into a fact that we could do an excise tax in quarterly payments to help people out in the city. Now, I certainly don't think that if someone gets a $50 excise tax, they should have to pay it in a quarterly payment. But if someone gets a $400 or $500 excise tax, that's a lot of money to pay in 30 days, you know. So that's why I came out here, that's why I put it in front of you. And I just ask you to consider it and hope that you would, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Next item, we have two claims, one for property damage and one for personal injury. Referred to Law Department by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Dakota.
Mr. Mayor, could I just interrupt? What is happening with Mr. O'Connor's petition? Referred to the Law Department for an answer or what?
Mr. Manager?
We'd be happy
I don't
to...
even know if that's legal or not. I mean,
the administration would be happy to put a response together. Essentially, the issue, on the face of it, and we'll do more research on it, it's important to keep in mind that the city doesn't actually generate the excise tax bills. Those are generated by the Registry of Motor Vehicles. So they're the ones who issue those and send out and send those to us, which then we have the responsibility of collecting. So we don't really, there isn't a mechanism to collect them quarterly, and legally the Department of Revenue and the Registry of Motor Vehicles requires them to go out in one bill and be paid accordingly. Mr. O'Connor is correct that there are excise tax bills that people pay that are several $100s now if it's a new car. The average excise tax bill actually is somewhere in the vicinity of $35 to $50. But we'd certainly be able to do some more research on that if the council so chooses and get a more formal report back to the council.
thank you.
Thank you. Getting back to these two claims, referred to the Law Department by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Moving on to the motion section of the agenda. First motion by Councilor Caulfield. Motion, City Council requests the city manager begin the process for taking measures to address the stairwell and similar issues at Lowell High School. Second by Councilor Mendonça. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lowell High School is the second largest high school in the state, with Brockton being larger. 3,400 students a day for 180 days out of the year who use that wonderful facility. Some of the stairwells, I say some, not all, but some, especially those going up to the little theater, Not only are they unsightly, but extremely dangerous. And anyone going onto the landing, not knowing there's a piece of fabric sticking up, they're going to trip. If they trip, they're going to go down a flight of stairs. And in the Coburn building, Mr. Mayor, you've been in the Coburn building, and so has every mayor in these chambers. There's 2 floors in the Coburn building. The tiled, I can't describe the tile. It's blue and white. It looks like something they bought at a yard sale. It's disgraceful. And it's all coming up. And underneath the tile is plywood. That should be replaced. And you know, if we're going to take pride in all our school buildings, we should take a long, hard look at Lowell High School, because not only is it unsightly, but it's dangerous too. And Mr. Manager, I'd be glad to go with you on a tour there and show you exactly what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, Councilman Mendoza?
Yes, I mean, from my time on my school committee, that always tended to be an issue is the maintenance of the stairwells, because not only is it the 3,400 students that are there during the day, but there's a couple of thousand students that attend night school in that building. And it seems like we're constantly wearing out the threads in the stairwells. I mean, there was also a cleanliness issue, but that's a custodial, not a maintenance. But certainly we need to keep a better eye on that, because it does wear out much faster than it would under normal use, because there's just the sheer number of people using the building. So I'd appreciate if it was given a good look at and any consideration for repairs.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Council Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a good motion. I think that we need to look at it and find out what needs to be done, what are the recommendations, and what are the costs. But I know Council Martin referred to a report we got several years ago, I think now, that the school committee put together for recommended repairs and maintenance that needed to be done at the schools. And I'm wondering if this was on the list, understanding that 3 years later there's probably been a lot more wear and tear with the volume of students in and out and up and down those stairs and through the hallways. So if we could maybe get that in comparison and see where that all is, and if we're going to have a recommendation of repairs, Mr. Manager, if, you know, I know we asked for before a projection of our, as I assume would have to be bonded, and what our, you know, what this would do to our borrowing capacity and our payments.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
If I may, all of the schools, all of our public facilities certainly have a number of needs. They get quite a bit of use. Many of them are quite old. As you know, a couple of years ago, we generated for the first time a capital budget for the city. It was a first cut at it. It needs more work. And last year, of course, given the fiscal conditions that we were all facing at the time, we delayed any action on that capital plan. We're in the process right now of updating that plan. We hope to have that to the council sometime in the early fall, and certainly we'll look at the stair treads in particular and that entire list of school improvements. But that's how these types, this is really underscores the importance of having a capital plan, that you do regular maintenance and regular replacement of your infrastructure, be it roads, sidewalks, or stair treads and roofs and the like. That, but we will certainly follow up to see where that falls on the priority list that was generated by the school department as well as by our land and buildings people, and we'll take a look and see what the current condition is, because it does get quite a bit of use, and I'm sure there is certainly some wear and tear there.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just one last comment. The majority of our schools are 20 years old. 1988, 89, when they were all built. Less than 20 years old. What I'm fearful of, a freshman at the high school opens the door and walks out that landing, and there's a piece of linoleum sticking up like this. It's an accident waiting to happen. And it's not the stair threads that need attention. It's these linoleum and fabric that's sticking up that you can trip on. They trip on it, Mr. Manager. They're going down a flight of stairs. I don't think anyone wants to see that happen. So it's a safety issue as well as an aesthetic issue.
Any other comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. Motion, City Council requests the city manager have the law department draw language requiring muzzling of pit bulls involved in incidents. Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to have this motion referred to the Public Safety Subcommittee. I know that there's a meeting set up in 2 weeks, 2 Tuesdays, and it's appropriate if it's discussed there. I know the Animal Advisory Commission will be providing recommendations and reports at that time, so it might make sense to have that full discussion at that meeting.
Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilman Johnson to refer the motion to the Public Safety Subcommittee. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, to vote.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, through you to the manager, at that meeting, Mr. Manager, I think the subcommittee would like to have the animal officer and statistics. How many people have been bitten by various dogs and so forth? We need those facts before us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next motion by Councilor Mercia. Motion, City Council requests the city manager have the proper department enforce current regulations and remove the trash from 24 Lane Street. Seconded by Councilor Martin. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a motion where there is a piece of vacant property and people are using it as a dumping ground, and whoever owns that property is not notified as to the problems there. But it's sad with the people on the abutting street, being Fresnel Street, that are good tax-paying people that keep their property clean and have to look out their window and see this. And I know that if this were removed with the help of the city, I don't know if we put a lien on the person's property or whatever, but the people that abut it would be able to clean it a little bit better and help out with their neighbor that is neglectful, but the grass is too high, there's a bunch of trash there, and this was reported to City Hall some time ago to see if it could be cleaned up, and nothing was done, so I'm just trying to make a motion to spotlight it again to see if we could do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Elliott.
Not on this motion, but of something of similar nature, and I just wanted to give credit to Gunther Wellenstein as well as Mr. Shanahan, Sean Shanahan. I was on Smith Street today and called in a problem, a rather large dumping problem, Mr. Manager, and Mr. Shanahan came down and he immediately got hold of the property manager, and rather than having the city come to clean it out and taxpayers and the city absorb the cost, he was able to get this landlord or the manager to come down and take off probably a good dumpster full, or excuse me, a good dump truck full of trash. So the response was swift, and it was really a public safety hazard, and they did a very good job. So I just wanted to make note of that. Again, a big dumping problem.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Councilor, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll certainly pass on commendation to both Gunther and Sean for their work on that. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Next motion by Councilor Mercia. Motion, request the city manager have the law department draw the proper vote for a 60-day trial, 15-minute parking in front of the DLKV at 447 Central Street. Second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion is for the 60-day trial for 2 15-minute parking signs in front of, that's the Lithuanian Club, the DLKV Club on 447 Central Street. If we had such a thing, this would allow all members to run in and pick up food or do the quick business that they so have to do occasionally. Because right now what's happening is people in the neighborhood are parking there all day long and no one is able to run in. I'd like to just refer this to the traffic supervisor to see what his take on this would be. This is what this motion is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, to vote. Next motion by Council Martin. Motion, City Council requests the city manager to proceed with actions to either repair or demolish the property located at 491 to 493 Concord Street. Seconded by Council Mercia. Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This, I don't think it's necessarily a move to demolish this property, but it's one that's been a source of problem to the neighborhood. It's been, from at least what's been reported to me, a typical story, out-of-state lender foreclosed. I don't know if the foreclosure's actually occurred yet or not, but if it has occurred, I was by the property today. There's clearly no attempt to comply with our ordinance about who to notify for management issues, things like that. So it's really the people in and out of there are, I want to say they're transient, but they're not certainly ideal residents, and they're a problem. People that live in the surrounding properties have been there 30 plus years, and this has been a source of problem to the neighborhood. So really just looking for the owner of the property to live up to the local codes and get control over the tenants that are living there, and ask the city to have the appropriate agencies take whatever enforcement action is appropriate to do that.
Thank you, Council Martin. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Next motion by Council Murphy. Motion, City Council requests the city manager discuss the use of fiscal year 2010 snow ice deficit assumed in the fiscal 2011 budget. Second by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was nearly $1.3 million budgeted this year as a carryover from last year's snow and ice budget, which was subsequently covered by interdepartmental transfers. And this is just a motion to begin a discussion, hopefully, on what aims we would have with that, with those funds. And I might suggest that we refer this to a finance subcommittee in order to have a fuller discussion on how we go about meeting goals that were set in the recently adopted financial policies for the city, in accordance with a recent report from Moody's Investor Services, in building up our reserves and in making adjustments to the budget, which are bound to happen throughout the year, whether they be in the amount of revenues that we take in or in the assumptions that we lay out for the budget. Particularly in the snow and ice budget itself, I know we've had a number of conversations with the city manager about gradually increasing the amount for snow and ice budget, so that if we aren't as lucky as this year in what we have for weather, that we aren't overly burdened in the next year. So perhaps raising some of the assumptions for that line item. In any case, I guess what I'm asking for is that we do refer this to the finance subcommittee, have a discussion on that, and perhaps a report at that time on any of the changes or adjustments that need to be made.
Thank you. Motion then by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Broderick, to refer the motion to the Finance Subcommittee for a report. Chair recognizes City Manager Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, this is something we're very pleased that over the last several years we've been able to do this. As many of the councilors certainly have been here over the last 4 years know, that what we've done each year is we've tried to close out that snow and ice deficit. It gives us a little bit of flexibility then moving into the actual budget finalization process that occurs in the fall when we file the recap sheet with the state. There are a couple of areas of the budget that have been modified since it was approved because of some actions taken by the state legislature and the state administration. It does give us some opportunities to address some issues within the budget that we identified in the document, snow and ice being one of them, but also a couple of other areas that we think this gives us a little bit of opportunity to set ourselves up better for fiscal year 12. All of these things are very fluid, as councilors know. So I would, it's generally this type of report or reaction to the information that comes in when we do this or other modifications. We generally go to the Finance Subcommittee in the October timeframe. So I would suggest that I can work with Councilor Elliott in setting up a subcommittee meeting at that time, and we can have a very full discussion on those areas in the budget that need to be filled and addressed, and again, setting us up for fiscal year 12 as well. But I think it's a good motion and a good idea to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any further discussion on referring the motion to the Finance Subcommittee? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Last motion of the evening. If my colleagues don't mind, I'll do it from the podium. Motion by Mayor Milanazzo, City Council requests the City Manager to address the traffic concerns on Florida Street. Second by Councilor Elliott. If I could, I've been contacted by some residents on Florida Street, and I guess there's speeding going on, so if I could just have the city manager look into that issue. It's my understanding that the Go Slow Children sign is no longer available, so I would look to the manager and the traffic department to come up with a solution to what is happening over on Florida Street. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Going back to the executive session portion of the agenda, if I could read a motion. Motion to go into executive session to discuss city manager contract negotiations as it relates to strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, as well as potential contract negotiations with non-union personnel where public discussion may have a detrimental effect on the city's position, and further to go into executive session to discuss Grand Manor condominiums as it relates to matters of litigation and the value of real property, since such discussions, if public, may have a detrimental effect on the position of the city, and further to go into executive session to discuss ongoing union negotiations and strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the city. At the conclusion of the executive session, the council will not reconvene. Motion by Councilman Mendonça, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
Councilor Broderick,
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield,
Yes.
Councilor Dakota,
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça,
Yes.
Councilor Mercia,
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Councilor Caulfield.
Mr. Mayor, before we go into executive session, have you or any members of the council received the information or the packet from the advisory panel?
Yes, I have received it.
Is that going to be handed to us publicly?
No,
or
it's going to be handed to you in an executive session.
Executive session?
Correct.
What's the reason for that?
I'd be happy to answer that, but I would defer to the city solicitor.
I think that until the council has had an opportunity to review the contents of the report, a determination should err on the side of caution. And it may be something that during the course of negotiations, the council decides that it is in the best interest of the city to keep those matters confidential for the time being. Ultimately, everything in the report will be public, but certainly that's not a decision that any one member, whether it is the mayor or not, would be making. It's a decision to be made for the entire council, and it's a decision that also should be made in executive session, depending on what the outcome of that decision is.
So, Madam Solicitor, you're saying that that packet that we receive should not be released to anyone? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm saying at this point, what the mayor is intending to do is it has not been given to anyone. It has remained with the mayor. The information will be relayed to the council in executive session, and at that time, the council can review it and then determine what it decides to be the best next steps to do with that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, the council stands adjourned in executive session.